The old rules of e-commerce SEO were simple. You picked your keywords, built a few backlinks, and pretty quickly you start seeing organic traffic and sales come through. But those rules simply don't apply anymore, especially with AI part of the picture, because I've been doing SEO for e-commerce brands for over a decade, and across hundreds of clients, I'm watching the old tactics and strategies become less and less effective by the month. With that said, I'm about to go through the new rules of e-commerce SEO, and by the end of this video, you know exactly how to get your store ranking as soon as possible, cited by AI tools, and growing revenue from organic search consistently. So let's get into it. The goal is different now. The first new rule is that the goal of SEO isn't ranking anymore. The old rule was to get your page to position 1 on Google for a high volume keyword, which worked for a long time because Google was basically just a list of links, and being at the top of that list meant you were going to get traffic. But the search results page doesn't really look like that anymore. Now when someone searches for a product, the top of the page is an AI overview giving them a written answer, and underneath that you've got shopping results, people also ask boxes, video carousels, and then traditional links way down at the bottom. So even when you're ranking number 1 in the traditional sense, you're often the 4th or 5th thing the buyer actually sees. Right now, close to 60% of European searches end without a single click, and that number has only gone up since AI overviews came out. This is a fresh research that's just come out from Rand Fishkin, and he does a lot of these studies, and I'm always keen to see what he's up to when he's doing these big studies. I mean, he invests a lot of time and money probably into a lot of the data, and they partnered up. So SparkToro is his company, and he's partnered up with SimilarWeb. So if you don't know about Rand Fishkin, he used to be the CEO of Moz. So he's got a lot of skin in the game when it comes to SEO. He's moved on to bigger and better things. Of course, he's focusing on a lot of this research with his company, SparkToro, that specializes in audience research. So I really love what they've done here. This is for the US, by the way. 68% of Google searches, so that's mobile and desktop, according to SimilarWeb's clickstream panel, now end without a click. So that's nearly 70% of clicks that we used to get potentially. In 2026, less than 1/3 of Google searches still send a click. So that's actually incredible. There's also a bigger change happening, which is that more and more buyers aren't even starting the search on Google. They're opening up ChatGPT, Gemini, or Perplexity and asking something like, what's the best protein powder for building muscle? And what's the best skincare for oily skin? And the AI gives them back a short list of 2 or 3 brands with reasons for each one. So if your brand isn't on that list, the buyer never even knows you exist. So the new goal is influence, not ranking. Influence means showing up whenever buyers are forming their opinions about who to buy from. That includes the traditional search results, but also includes AI answers, video results, comparison content, and review platforms. Why your brand matters more than keywords. Once you understand the goal has changed, the next rule follows naturally, which is that your brand now matters more than your keywords. The old rule was that you'd pick a keyword, build a page around it, put it in the right phrases, and try to rank for it. Basically, the page was what you were optimizing, and the keyword was the target. But the new rule is that AI systems and modern search engines don't think in keywords, they think in entities. And when it comes to entities, I gotta give a big shout out to one of the OGs. Sadly, he passed away in 2022. I started my career in SEO back in around 2016, and I was following a lot of his research. So he's got this wonderful blog called SEO by the Sea, which is still up. I'd highly recommend you read it, even though, you know, he's obviously passed away, sadly. He's got a lot of really useful information here. He used to track whenever Google had a new policy or had a new trademarked IP, so intellectual property. He used to track, you know, what they were copywriting, you know, their technology and the documentation behind it. So he's got a lot of research on entities. So if I just search entities in his blog, he's one of the first people who really talked about this in a lot of detail when it comes to SEO. This is 2022, by the way, right? And people are talking about entities as if it's some new phenomenon. When I start to tell people that, you know what, good SEOs have been focusing on the right things for a long time, this is what I mean. Correction, some of this stuff even dates back to 2016, 2015. Like, honestly, this is like old research, right? Technically old research, but is now coming back into the forefront 10 years later. So yeah, if you really want to geek out and learn more about how the web works and how Google and obviously AI systems are trained on Google systems. So if you really want to get to the understanding of how this works, then yeah, definitely read this. I highly recommend it. I need to read more of this, to be honest. And yeah, you always learn something new when you read one of Bill's articles. So yeah, shout out to him and his family. You know, rest in peace. Sadly, he passed away. He's honestly given the SEO industry such knowledge, and he's 100% an OG. So yeah, for sure, check it out. An entity is just a clearly defined thing that exists in the world. So for example, your brand is an entity, your products are entities, and the use cases you serve are also entities. And AI tools are consistently trying to build a clear understanding of those different entities so they can decide when to recommend you. Now, the way you become a clear entity is by being super consistent about who you are across every page in your site, your homepage, your about page, your category pages, your product pages, even the meta descriptions behind them all need to be saying the same thing about your brand. If your homepage describes you one way and your about page describes you another way, AI tools end up confused about who you actually are. And confusing brands don't get recommended because the AI can't say with any confidence what you do and who you do it for. And I've seen this play out directly with one of our clients. Their brand started getting mentioned in ChatGPT results after we rewrote their homepage copy to be specific about the unique selling points, the story behind the brand, and who they actually serve. I've even seen ChatGPT pull copies straight out of a client's meta description and give it back to a user as part of an answer, which showed you just how much AI tools are relying on what's actually written on your site, on the front end and in the back end. So I'm quickly going to share with you this brand that we've helped, and it's a very simple change that anybody can do. Honestly, it's one of the biggest missed opportunities I feel when it comes to e-commerce. The homepage is just a forgotten entity. So if you scroll down to the homepage, you've got this text here, right? You can easily miss it, of course, if you're a user, but honestly, if you're an AI platform, if you're Google, if you're a search engine, crawlers are looking for this information. And you can see that we've got a heading here, and that's the H1. Even though it's lower down the page, it still shows up. And we've also got a clear description of who this brand is. So they were founded in 1994. So there's a lot of history there, a lot of trust. They say who they are: trusted beauty wholesaler for professionals. So they say what they do, who they are, and who they're for. And so if you're not professional, you're definitely not gonna wanna purchase products from them. The important thing here is that they provide wholesale products in these specific categories. They say they have over 5,000 professional beauty, hair, and nail and salon products. This very short, brief description is doing a number of things very, very well. And a lot of brands miss out on this. You don't need paragraphs and paragraphs of text. You don't need walls of text when it comes to being very specific about what your brand does in plain, simple English, who you're for, why you're trusted, a bit about your background, your heritage, your history. Of course, you can go into more detail on the about pages, etc. But this kind of information is gold. So if I go into AI mode, I'm just gonna search for beauty wholesaler in the UK that specializes in wax. Okay, so there's a number of different brands that come up. Fantastic. So they actually show up a couple of times here on the right hand side, so it's gaining a lot of visibility for them. So waxing supplies there, and they've got a wholesale page there, so fantastic. So you can see the hierarchy of the homepage, obviously referencing that they're a wholesaler, and then you've got these specific pages talking about the products that they supply, and everything's consistent, right? Professional, wholesale, you know, that consistent messaging from the homepage filtering down to the category pages is so important. So it's important you understand that this changes how you should be building your pages going forward. Instead of building a page for every keyword variation you find in the tool, you're better off building pages around the actual use cases your buyers really care about. This is because keyword tools only show you what people are already searching for in volume, which means everyone using these tools is going after the exact same terms. But the most valuable pages on an e-commerce site actually come from real customer questions and conversations your sales team is already having every day. Now, staying on that same client, I'm going to briefly describe a scenario where we didn't actually do any keyword research. This was a conversation that we had with the client. One of their key offerings, or one of their key values in terms of their products, is that they're able to work with salon owners, beauty shop owners, spa owners to help them develop their own products. So they used to call this product category own brand. We did a bit of research after having a conversation, and private label was actually the term that we really wanted to go after. So private label products is actually what they do. They've got a page here that's really clear in terms of, you know, the types of offering they've got available. They still have the old brand in terms of the messaging. And then we've got all these subcategories in terms of the different products that they offer. So this is quite a key one for them. And even though it may not get a lot of organic traffic directly, anyone coming onto the website will see that particular page in the navigation and can clearly see what they offer. So this is really, really good for them, and any salon owner can come and see what is available, and there's several FAQs that we've tried to answer to basically describe how this product could help salon owners create a much better, more sustainable business. By the way, if you want us to audit where your brand currently shows up across both traditional and AI search and figure out what's holding it back, click the first link in the description to book a free intro call with us. Anyway, let's keep going. Where authority comes from now. The next new rule is about authority and where it comes from. The old rule was that authority came from building backlinks back to your own website. You write a piece of content, do outreach to get other sites to link to it, and over time those links would convince Google the site was trustworthy enough to appear in search results. But the new rule is that authority comes from how the rest of the internet talks about your brand, not just who links to it, because AI search pulls from a much wider range of sources to decide which brands to recommend, and most of these sources are third party. In fact, when buyers use AI search to compare a short list of brands, the majority of citations in those results come from third-party sources, and they outnumber the brand's own citations by more than 6-1. So the AI platform is more likely to recommend the brand that other people are talking about than the brand only talking about itself. What this means for e-commerce especially is that your blog and your product pages alone aren't enough anymore. You also need to be talked about consistently in places AI actually pulls from. That's getting featured in news articles, blogs, websites within your space. It's also showing up alongside other trusted brands, whether that's through partnerships, collaborations, or being mentioned next to bigger names in your category, because AI tools pick up on who you're associated with. We've been able to get coverage for the Bricktail company in House Beautiful recently, but they've also been able to get natural coverage in those kind of top tier publications. And how they do that is a very simple strategy where they submit their imagery to platforms that journalists use, because journalists always need images that are high quality and that are unique and that they're able to have the license for, right? So if you're able to submit your images onto these particular platforms, then you're able to be cited by these big publications. That's a really easy win if you've got a very visual product, and that's what the Bricktail company do naturally. Of course, what we are working with them on is trying to get them more of that editorial coverage and more backlinks to their site, but this is also a really clever way in terms of how to gain that coverage. And then there's product reviews from real customers on third-party platforms like Trustpilot or Google Reviews, because those directly shape how AI describes the strengths and weaknesses of what you sell. Now, one specific place to build this kind of authority right now that you should definitely be doubling down on is video. Anyone can write a blog or run a technical audit, and AI can pump out text content in seconds, which means the web is filling up with near identical articles that all sound the same. Now, I'm briefly going to share why I think video is so important for e-commerce brands. So I'm going to use one of our clients, Bricktail company. So that's one of the ads. I'm not going to click that. And what they do is brick slips, and you can see there's a number of different competitors that do them. A lot of big retailers in the UK, B&Q, Wix, Screwfix, but we were able to actually get them appearing, at the top pretty much of results when it comes to AI overviews. You can see them there, and traditional search results, you can see them there. And there are, of course, a number of different types of, I'll say, search engine results in terms of features. You got image cards, product cards, you've got all the different tabs at top that people can use. Also got, all this find related products and services. People also ask, that used to be nearer the top, back in the day. That's now at the bottom. You've also got other traditional search results. Then you've got video embedded at the bottom there as well. So if somebody's deep into their research, they're going to be watching video content. And of course, this helps you in two ways. Of course, it helps you with traditional, let's say, Google search results in terms of if somebody navigates to Google or maybe is using AI mode. But also YouTube is one of the biggest search engine in the world after Google itself, right? And Google owns YouTube. So you're able to get traffic from YouTube itself or viewers from YouTube itself and educate people around your product, as well as appear in the traditional search results. So I'll definitely want to emphasize this point that YouTube video content is something that is slept on when it comes to e-commerce. I mean, they've actually got a video talking about installation. It's a very short video here from Facebook. So it doesn't even need to be published on YouTube. Very simple, time-lapse video, nothing crazy. And this is the kind of content that people want to see. Yeah, Honestly, it doesn't take rocket science to build useful video content across multiple platforms for YouTube, social media, etc., because that can be cited in Google and AI and can help you rank in terms of traditional searches as well. But video is much harder to fake because it needs subject matter expertise, your actual presence on camera, and takes a lot more effort to produce. And AI platforms are increasingly pulling from citing video content as a result, especially when it's published on YouTube or your own site with proper transcripts and info about the video attached. How to measure SEO now? The last new rule is about how you measure whether your SEO is even working anymore. The way you used to do this was by opening up your analytics, looking at your organic traffic, and if the number was going up month on month, new SEO was working. But traffic on its own doesn't tell you the truth anymore. In a world where most educational searches don't get a click, your traffic numbers can drop while your influence is actually growing. For example, I've had e-commerce client calls where the monthly report showed a small revenue decrease year on year, and on the surface it looked like SEO was underperforming, but actually pipeline was up and revenue per visit was way higher than the year before. So the new rule is to no longer measure traffic, but influence and revenue instead. The metrics that actually matter now are organic attributed revenue, your branded search volume, your share of voice for the categories you care about, and your appearances in AI search results. For B2B specifically, that also means MQLs and SQLs from organic, not just submissions. You also want server-side tracking for things like add to cart and checkout, otherwise you're flying blind on what's actually working. The best example of why this matters is one of our migration projects with a UK retailer called Manage at Home. After the migration, their non-brand clicks actually went down by 15%. Using the old way of measuring SEO, this would have looked like a failure, but organic revenue went up by 211%, transactions up by 320%, and conversion rate up by 164%. Fewer clicks, yes, but the right people landing on the right pages and a lot more of them actually buying. Now, if your store isn't growing from organic the way you want it to be, you can click the first link in the description to book a free intro call with us. On the call, we'll take a look at your site and show you exactly where your brand is and isn't showing up across both traditional Google search and AI tools, and show you exactly what needs to happen first to start generating better organic results. So again, you can book your free intro call by clicking the top link in the description. And if you want to learn how you can outrank 99% of your competitors on Google, then check out this video next.